So at that point, Denominator was spinning up Terra Console.
Mm-hmm.
NAU was a thing. He was working on JP. We had divided the product. So we had the console product and we had the PC product. So
Yeah.
you came in and you were working exclusively on the PC product. Paint
Yeah.
me a picture of what that early team was.
Yeah. So I was still trying to figure out. I think there was a little bit of hangover from my predecessor who had just left on like how he had handled things, and it seemed to me like there was a gap there where there definitely needed to be some processes put in place to help things move along, but that it felt like everybody had been burned by like maybe burned by the last person who came along because they just kind of took everything in themselves and just released it and didn't really like share how it was being done or what. But I've always like I am not I don't find information to be precious. Like it doesn't. If I know something, I'm totally cool if you know it too. I don't feel like I'm gonna get. I don't think that's the thing that keeps me from getting let go from my job. Is because I know a piece of information. If that's all it's taking, then I suck at what I'm doing. Like I'm like that's not. I don't want to hold that over people's heads. So when I came in at first, I just was like, man, there was definitely a lot of contention when I would get on the calls. I think that was my first impression. We would get on the calls with our contacts on the business team, um, and I could see very different. Like it was like two different eye lines. Like like you're looking straight at their chin talking, and they're looking right at your forehead, and neither person was really like grokking what the other one was saying. So I remember the first few things. I remember coming out of the first few phone calls and just kind of like being quiet, absorbing things, trying to think of where I could maybe only jumping in when I felt like I really had something to put in on the conversation, but kind of just sitting in the background and watching what was going on. And I was like, man, like there was definitely certain people in the room who felt like they were in both of the rooms, who felt like they were just waiting for their chance to talk. They did not give a shit what the other side had to say. It was like, we need this, this, and this. This is what works. And I had always been of the opinion that, like, I never think I'm the guy in the room with the best idea. There's probably, odds are good, there's someone in here a lot smarter than me or just a lot better idea than me. And so I don't try to poo poo those ideas right out of the gate. I would rather hear what everybody has to say because maybe it isn't the right answer, but maybe it's the answer that spurs on the right answer from somebody in the room. But I remember hearing some stuff in there where it was just like, yeah, well, we just do this because this is the way it's done. And I was like, okay, well, I like the last couple of jobs I worked at, like you never uttered that phrase. If you couldn't give a good reason why you do something, then you quit doing it and see what the effect is. If the effect is negative, then go back to doing it. You know now what it does, right? Like, but to say like, well, we don't direct sell items. Loot boxes are the way to go. Why? Well, because when we tried doing that before, it just didn't work. Well, what happened? It just didn't work. It didn't make as much money. Well, how did you promote it? What did you do? How did you go about it? What was the process? And they're just like, it just doesn't work. They just keep putting stuff in loot boxes and keep doing this way. And you're kind of like, is that really the answer? Is just because you've never done it another way? That's the way you're going to keep doing things? That just, and I get that there's years. Now, this is like working on TERA at that point in time. How long is TERA live at that point? What you guys launched in 2011, right? Was it late
When you
2011?
came on, probably 6 years.
Oh, it was 6 years because we were about to do the 6 year anniversary the following. You guys had just done the 5th year anniversary before I got there, so we were planning the first one I did was the 6th year anniversary. That's right. So the game had been live for long enough to where it had gone past the point of, oh, this shit's going to crash and burn and die in 6 months, right? It survived those hurdles, and so I understood that there was history to be learned from, but there's also a reason, sometimes why you want to inject some of those new ideas in. Uh, and I had just come, like I said, I just come off. Now I had come back into games, and now I'm back into. This is, by the way, that point when I was kind of like this morally ambiguous area was being created again because I had just left that job at on Guild Wars when I left to go to geocaching, and I was kind of back in the same realm again, where I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is 100% appropriate for my kid, but all
But
right. I mean,
you came to a company where you're piling on a couple more
yeah,
issues. Yeah.
yeah, and I was like, but I've got to have a job, right? So but I've never been able to approach it like you said. I've never been able to approach it like it's just a job. Like I'm not a product manager or a producer or any of those things that just walks in and is just like, clock in at 9, clock out at 5, don't give a shit what happens on the other 16 hours or whatever. So it was very, I just take shit personally. I take pride in my job. It hurts my feelings when I feel like I've let somebody down, at whether it be the people playing. I've played enough games. I don't want to be let down, right? I've played all these games. I know what it feels like to get let down by a game. Yeah, yeah.
So
I know what it feels like. So
it seems like you came in and immediately noticed that maybe our goals were a little different, or maybe there was some cultural differences. So was that was that your first thing that you had to improve?
That was the first thing I wanted to improve. That, and I also wanted to get Matt onto console. I realized from a company perspective, I think that was another thing that I was blessed with working at geocaching, was I got a bigger perspective of like a company and a portfolio as a whole. Like I didn't want it to be all about my game only, which at NMAS is very difficult because intrinsically TERA is in the DNA of NMAS, right? NMAS launched as a way to get TERA out, and then NMAS grew beyond TERA. It was trying to grow beyond TERA, but at its root, it's still owned. At that point in time, it was prior to the Craft On Union and all, the kind of rebranding of how things, the restructuring of how things were working. At that time, it was still like, it's literally our publishing company is talking to the developer of this game, but there's a bigger group of other games and other things happening that we don't talk to, but we're all part of this thing. There's this very bizarre relationship that I wasn't used to. The NCSoft relationship was very much a straight publisher. Here's a publisher. Here are all of our titles. Here are the contacts for those titles. The producers of those titles are the ones who talk to each of those development teams. But we are kind of analogous of any of those games. Like as a business case, if we want to shut down Lineage 2, we're shutting down Lineage 2. Like we don't have to keep Lineage 2 running. Like I don't think there is an option at any point in time was it probably offered up as an option to say, and Mass to say like, look, we're just done with TERA, we're shutting it down. Like if it came to it, that was a much bigger conversation. They had to have a lot more people involved from other outside teams. So that was a little weird for me to get used to, was the idea that like this game is like part of the DNA of this company. But I do know there's a lot of bigger plans for what this company wants to be and what it needs to be. And Commander, I mean, I have no amount of there's no limit to the good things I could say about some of the visionary ideas and discussions that I would have. I miss sitting in Sam's office and just bullshitting with him about an idea and getting excited, or talking about, oh shit, this latest Gundam mobile game came out. If you played it, oh my god, let's sit down, let's talk about this latest Gundam mobile game and all the shit they're doing right and all the shit that we think they're doing wrong, and just talking about the conceptual ideas behind some of the design ideas and things like that, and making it so that you can have those broad conversations that aren't siloed to say like, well, I'm only going to talk to you about production processes. I don't want to talk about monetization, right? Or like I could talk about anything I wanted to talk about and I was being heard, which is you don't get that at all. I can tell you, after how many years now? 16? No. 2004? Is that 16 years? Oh my God. After 16 years, I can tell you that is a pretty unique position to be in, to be able to walk into your CEO's office and sit down and just bullshit with him about games. Because he's a gamer. I worked with a lot of CEOs at game companies who haven't played a game, and if they have ever played a game or were ever addicted to playing a game, it was, 20 years ago, 30 years ago that they played games. So my initial impression was this is a different type of company. I came into it with one expectation of this is going to be like NCSoft. It's very much not like NCSoft. But there's a lot of places here where I want to free up Matt. I want Matt to work on console. I want him to get out of PC and give me PC. And it wasn't because I thought Matt was doing a bad job, or I'm like, hell, I was leaning on Matt more often than Matt and you more than anything else. But I wanted him to get console out. I thought it was important for PC to have a console counterpart because it was only going to do great things. It was going to spread awareness about our game. Even if you don't give a shit about the console version of TERA, when you were in April of 2018, right? That was 2018 when we launched it. If you were on or around a PlayStation 4 console or an Xbox console, you were just inundated constantly with pictures of TERA. And if you didn't care about it, at least it made you go like, what is this game? Oh, they have a PC version. Oh, I play PC games. So I was like, there's no downside to us. We aren't going to lose a bunch of players because of this. I felt deeply that we wouldn't, that it was just diversification. It was just giving more people more opportunities to play your game. Like, why wouldn't you do that? So my first thing was I wanted to get him freed up, but I knew that I didn't know enough about the game. And once I saw what we had to go through to get a build out, it wasn't just like, all right, the package got delivered, QA, test it, make sure that it looks all right. All right, get it in the patcher. Let's patch that shit out. All right, game's out, good to go. I was like, no. Instead, we're going to be digging around in XML data sheets for days, trying to merge in 6 years of changes that we've tuned up for our territory that's specific, that the developer will not maintain any kind of version control over. Now we have to do that. Once I saw all of the minutia of how to get just a build out, that was when my eyes really got open to like, okay, this job is going to be complex. And it was a very complicated job. Engulfed my life constantly. I mean, I cannot tell you how many nights. I mean, I would say in that first year, a typical week working on TERA was like probably 60, 65 hours a week. Easy, 70 hours a week maybe. We were staying late most nights. Come home, watch TV, just grab my computer and just log back on.
Yeah, 10, 12-hour days where that was your thing.
Yeah, merging data sheets, start. And then at the same time, hey, I got this brilliant idea. I want to do this large-scale event using a minimal amount of tools that we have to make this game work. Let's do Argon Assault over a month of this thing. And then not even having any
great idea that was.
Oh, my God, it ate my life up so much and it had a good return for the first few days. And then it just faded off because it became like everything else. You can't do things for more than a couple days before people just go, all right, now what? We did this for 4 days. Okay, now what? And I was like, oh, my God. So, so it just became all-encompassing for a long time. And it really started, it's like doing a tour of duty, man. Like it's having been in the military, I can say it's very similar to doing a tour of duty. I did a tour in the Middle East. Yeah, it's very similar.
Hey, how cool is it that you found the Guffy Bear YouTube channel? I mean, that's wow, 1 in a million. Thanks for being here. And if you hit like, subscribe, and comment to one of my videos, my ego really, really explodes. It just inflates. You have that power. That's something that you can do today to make yourself and me feel good.